We are live. What is going on, people in the omniverse? Coaching moment for all the, what should we say, A-listers in the room, the celebrities in the room. We're going to want to look at the screen.
Yep.
But we're better, we'll do the audience, all the people in the omniverse, a good solid if we look at the camera when we're talking. So we're all here, folks. If you're out there in the omniverse, let us know you're here because we want to show you some love.
Yes.
And if not, if you're going to lurk, that's okay because we love lurkers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how we start, so it's okay.
So what's going on? Why are we all? What are we doing in this cave together? What's going on here?
Well, we do this like every couple months, I think, and so it's our weekend, our reciprocal propulsion weekend, where we get to have some really cool people all together to have some mind shifting experiences.
What is happening? We're actually not in a cave. No. We're in the Sarah Vanilla Castle.
Yeah, amazing.
So we're in Georgia?
McKaysville, Georgia.
McKaysville, Georgia. Anybody know? We got a.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, quick round. Who's here?
I'm Dave Price.
Amy Campbell.
Sarah Ganella.
Maria Martin.
Heather Ormandi.
And Jennifer and me. Yeah. So we're all here. So first, we'll have to say this a couple times. We're not going to be having a after party. Rather,
We are hosting.
we will not be present at the after party. So folks, if somebody wants to wrangle that up and make that happen, please do. Because we're going to be diving into all kinds of craziness today. So we got Miss Leslie. She's coming in.
Morning.
Uh-oh. Man, all these people I've met in person, Jen.
Whatever.
Steve Martin coming in 90 degrees. Yeah, it's cold out here too. Oh, look at that. We got Mr. Jim Gontorius. And then Lance is coming in. Lance Bennett is here. Greetings from McDonough. Oh, so he's in McDonough, Georgia.
It's further south.
Okay. And then Lance says, "Good morning, beautiful people. What is up, folks?" So I think we have the Blue Heart announcement.
Okay. I will give the overview. So we know there are probably people that are super willing to share, and so they're typing on their computers, and we've got to see some of them, and they are, they like to be engaged in the conversation. We also know that some of you may be out there, this may be your first time joining us, or you've been here for a while, but you're not quite ready to take that jump, and that's okay. But we do want to recognize you because we don't know unless you type that you're there. So if you're willing to, and it's your first time joining us, or maybe your first time actually putting words to the computer or to the phone, if you will just put a blue heart, and you can right click, go to emojis, put a blue heart, or just type the word blue heart, that just allows us to know, hey, I'm here. And because that allows our tribe to connect with you, to support you, to encourage you, to lift you up, things like that. And so we just ask if you'll do that, and we can celebrate you, but also you will gain a lot of connections.
Yes, we will swarm you! Because that's what it's all about. Oh man, look at that. We got Mr. Darryl coming in from Canada, and that's a different kind of cold, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Who's in here? So Bradley, what's up, Bradley? Jamie.
Good morning.
Troublemaker Jamie. And then DJ Hootie Hoo. Yeah. So we're going to have a group conversation about collaboration is a space for. Ooh. All right, and this came from the after party. The last one was a pretty good after party. We were talking about basically communication, right? The dynamics of communication, what happens, what doesn't happen, what we think happens, or imagine happens. And so out of that conversation, of course, Jen and I, I was bruised, but it was like, there's a lot in this communication idea, particularly about feedback. And so we started picking that apart. Well, I started picking it apart. And I'm like, I think if we get clearer about the different types of communication that we're labeling as feedback. And so maybe the grenade I want to throw out there is that I am accusing everybody out there in the omniverse even that we are misusing the word feedback. And using or failing to produce the intended outcome that we are seeking. So because of that, I said, Jen, what if we just have a series of conversations around communication and get super granular about or rather work towards gaining clarity about what the differences are.
Yes, so Jesse, can you, in your mind, give your thoughts on the difference between feedback and input?
I will. And so feedback for me, the way I understand it, and rather the way I use the word or the idea of feedback, is it is a retrospective event. It is post, it is after the thing has been done. That's the closing of the loop, giving feedback on what happened, what we thought happened, what we expected, what we wanted better, all of those things after the fact. Input is the leading engagement. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we said collaboration because I've heard this many times. Oh, you were having a poll plan, we're having a conditions of satisfaction, or whatever these fancy words are. And nobody was giving feedback. It's like, in my head, I'm like, did y'all finish early?
Yeah.
Because feedback's at the end.
Did you do a plus delta?
Did you just talk and not give any airspace for anybody else to say?
Right. And so that's where I'm like, okay, during the collaboration, and this isn't the only venue for input, but just to kind of give us some boundaries, some bumpers, say when we're collaborating, it's a brainstorming effort, a collaboration effort, we are not looking for feedback. We're looking for input. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
So you're saying, are we speaking to be heard?
More, please.
Are you looking for feedback just that they heard you, or are you looking for feedback that they have something to say about what you just said? Okay, that's two different, it's issuing the order and hearing, I got it, will do, or issuing the order and then saying, hey, that's kind of stupid, maybe we could do it this way instead.
Yes. So in the input, like in the collaboration phase, it's the second one that you said, for me.
Yeah.
That you're experiencing.
That I think is appropriate.
Yes.
I view collaboration as an opportunity for the idea expansion or like solution expansion.
Mhm.
So you have all these people that are all being, two or more, putting in their ideas, thoughts, and suggestions, and maybe, oh, I saw that this one way worked, and we could maybe make it work for this one, versus the like shutting down someone else's idea. It's not just, oh, we're showing up to collaborate, and what it really is I'm calling a meeting to tell you what my ideas are, and that we're going to go with those, and I'm not actually interested in hearing other people's thoughts or ideas or input.
Yeah, because that's like behavior. What I'm hearing from what you're saying, Amy, is like collaboration, there's an intent. The intent is to source ideas.
As many as you can,
And
there's
all-
no wrong or bad.
They all count right now. Right? Through them, but just get it all out there on the wall, which is, in my head, that's the purpose. That's what we're here for. But then, do we even know how to collaborate? Can we receive other people's ideas? Right? there's the yes and exercise. Which most of us, rather I'll say it this way, what I've experienced most of the time is a no but or a yes but. Like, yeah, but, and minimizing, right, and suffocating the collaboration. But in that conversation, it's an input thing. Like we want everybody's input. Fernando Flores, what's up, Fernie? He says feedback equals constructive criticism. Input equals how to get better and deal with what's wrong. What do you think about that?
I'd like to dovetail on that. And so I'm thinking about within our own firm, because one of the things that we constantly do is we get feedback from our clients. It's a feedback tool. And we've been taught that it's better to get it earlier, not at the end, because at the end, I can't do anything about the feedback that I got from you if it's at the end of the project. And so I need to understand sooner. For me, feedback is not about me. It's about the client and how I'm managing their expectations. For me, input is we're trying to figure out a better way of doing things. So I agree with him. So it's like sourcing ideas in order to figure out maybe a better process where feedback is, this is my expectation, and us getting on the same page on how we will deliver upon that expectation.
Ooh, I'm gonna pick on you. Because feedback, what I hear you describe is a corrective conversation.
Yes.
And for me, there's a delineation between a performance conversation and feedback, right? Because I send out surveys all the time for feedback on what I've done.
Yes.
I'm not correcting anybody's performance. I am receiving feedback for me to improve, which means I get to pick and choose what the hell I want to do.
But aren't they correcting your performance?
They're not correcting. They're offering me their insight.
Their perspective. Their perspective is right. Their perspective. That is correct. And sometimes a part of that feedback is about managing the expectation. I may not agree with them, but we still have to figure out how we're going to come together. So for me, feedback isn't always corrective. It's, oh, okay, we're not in alignment. So let's now figure out, or sometimes we get feedback and we go, we're not going to be able to do that. And so for me, it's not always corrective.
So what I'm hearing, or maybe I'm going to make an assumption and hopefully the sofa over there wakes up. Like, come on, we can call them out. Is in a collaboration session, feedback doesn't fit in there.
No.
It must be there.
Oh.
No.
You know,
I am solidly with Jesse. Collaboration time, there is
No judgment. No judgment. No bad idea.
but that's
no
exactly.
splash of ideas.
So I think that information is neutral,
Yes, it is.
and communication is an exchange of information.
Amen.
And so when you hear that squawk coming out of a microphone, that is feedback, because it's telling you another microphone is picking up the signal.
Yes,
Right? So feedback is just information coming back to you.
and you can choose to change
And you
it.
can choose to do something. In collaboration, there's a model that says that you need trust, you need cohesion, you need a shared mental model. And the only way we're going to decide if we have a shared mental model is if you say a thing and I say, I don't see it that way. And then we come to some agreement on what that looks like. And then the fourth thing, this is where that feedback comes in, is conflict management. And so internal to a collaborative team is getting that conflict management in there so that people know that here's the ground rules. You two can't settle it. They're the facilitator, they step in and they make a decision and the team votes. And that's how conflict is handled, whatever that process is. So I think feedback must be in collaboration.
Always scientific. If it's not scientific, I don't want to hear.
In a collaboration session, are you trying to get to an answer or one aligned goal? Aren't you just trying to get us throwing as much spaghetti on the wall as you can?
You might be, depending on where you are. If your collaboration effort is on design, if your collaboration effort is on resolving a schedule problem, brainstorming is a phenomenal place to start, but it doesn't have to be. You may walk into the room with only two choices. You may have a problem that is only two options.
Then you're not collaborating.
To me, that sounds more like mediation
That's a decision making.
versus collaboration.
Yes. Oh, wait, no, I think we, you know what? Move the coffee table. Come on. Conflict resolution, right?
No, there's a flagpole outside.
Right.
You're kidding. So Adam says, collaboration is a place of yes and. Alright. Fernando says, we already did that. Sorry, Fernando, love you again. He's up super early coming in from the San Francisco. What else we got up there? Adam says, I agree. I think radical candor feedback is a must to collaborate. Now, Leslie says, observation, the word feedback could be considered jargon. Yes, that's my point. Because an organization will use the word differently than others. 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie. The conflict strategist.
It can be used in a sense that the phrase, we have a great opportunity for you used in this industry.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
I want to offer a way for you to succeed.
Here is your path forward.
Yep. Yeah, and so let's go to the jargon. Like, how helpful, what is the purpose of the jargon, right? Performance improvement plan. That sounds like we're helping somebody improve. And if that's an important mechanism, why doesn't everybody have one?
Because it's definitely different than the employee development path.
Right? So what is a performance improvement plan, like for real?
You suck. Let's figure out how to make you better.
It's the
Yes.
HR
This is strike two.
Yes.
pathway.
And strike three is you're out.
It's the corporate career path.
That's why.
You determine when you terminate the person, so that when they go get an employment lawyer, you have documentation that you
CYA. CYA.
So why, like, we cloud the truth with soft language.
Yes.
And so,
which is, it's not candid.
right.
But there's a common jargon, so everybody knows you don't want to say it.
So who does the jargon serve?
The person giving,
The jargon.
because they are not good with uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
Which obviously, if they were good with uncomfortable conversations or uncomfortable conversations, it wouldn't have gotten to that point because they would have addressed it before it got to that bad of strike two.
No. So I want to take that back to feedback. We use the word feedback to soften up me saying you shit the bed. Can I give you some feedback? I have some feedback for you.
I'd like to argue with you. Are you ready?
Mom, that's what we're here.
Counterpoint.
I'd like to give a shout out to Will, and say that you can have kindness with your feedback. It doesn't have to be you incontinent person shit the bed last night.
Mhm.
It can be, hey, I noticed that there was a mess in your bed this morning. Would you like help cleaning it up? And that is more impactful to somebody than you incontinent person do.
I would receive that as minimizing and demeaning.
And I don't think that's giving feedback. That's just making an observation.
Yes, it's scientific.
There's also the issue that you are a certain person
Yes, true.
and she is a certain person.
Knowing your audience.
And the two of you in a leadership situation, she needs to know how you do things and what you will and will not take on board. And so you might have that approach for 97% of your employees, but then you know that he's a straight shooter and it's like, hey, you screwed this up, I need you to fix it. And then you walk away. But not every employee can you address that way. And that's where it becomes a one-to-one relationship, no matter what's going on.
I still find that you can use kindness and that it's,
Yeah.
it's more rewarding for my spirit to give out.
I'd also like to add that feedback does not need to always be constructive criticism or negative or like, hey, you shit the bed. It's just, it could be like, hey, like you did an awesome job at making the bed. That was fantastic. I'd love to see more of that.
Amen.
Yeah.
I guess within our firm, this is a philosophy that we were taught. So you start out as met expectations. That's the given, because when you're doing a job, they're expecting you to do the job. So you then can slide it up and down to say, maybe you did something that exceeded, or maybe you did something, maybe there's something off. And so it provides that ability to slide it up and down, but it starts at 4 and people can give you the 4s and say, you're doing great, you're meeting my expectations. And so for me, I agree with the comment that it can be positive, or it can be, there's something we need. I'm giving you feedback, there's something that's bothering me that we need to address. So that's how we use feedback internally, is that it can be either or, but the expectation is for meeting the expectation until you tell us otherwise.
We're communicating, like, are we on target or not? Right?
Correct.
Are we on track or not?
Yeah.
So Jen, have you ever facilitated like a brainstorming session?
I have, but before I answer your question, I'm listening to everything. And so I'm going to pose this to the group in a minute, and I'll answer your question. Like for me, is feedback a response? And if feedback is a response, which in my mind it is, then who initiates the ask, or who, like, if does something have to happen for someone to provide feedback?
Oh,
And
so
so
was it requested?
that's the question I'm going to ask you in a minute. Let me answer Jess's question. So think about that, because that's giving y'all some. But so when we're talking about this, and where my brain goes is, Sarah mentioned it, the conditions of satisfaction. And so when I think about mining for contribution, am I getting input or feedback? If I need you to contribute to the conversation, then are you giving me input or feedback? And where I'm a little bit cloudy, and maybe you can help me with this, Jess, is when I facilitate a conditions of satisfaction discussion in a room, it's usually at the beginning of a project. And so at the beginning of a project, if I am mining for contribution and I'm asking for feedback, I'm gonna call it feedback, and this is why. I'm asking for feedback because most people will start telling me what's important to them and telling me why they need this to happen for it to be successful because of a previous project or because of something that happened prior to them being in that room, even though it's the beginning of a project. And so for me, I'm mining for contribution. People can call it input, people can call it feedback, but people are coming in different places. The last project screwed this up, and I need to make sure you're on top of this. That's feedback, according to Jesse's definition. Okay, we want to make sure that this project is a pinnacle in the community. That is input based on something that's important to them, and they want to make sure that that's something that stays in front of the conversation. Is there a differentiation in those things?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
my answer to you.
so the comment of this went wrong on my last project is feedback for them. But you as the facilitator, it's not feedback because you weren't a part of that project. You're getting it as input because this is a new meeting. Because the project hasn't happened yet. So it can be both.
Is that correct? Is that right?
It can be both.
What? That's a response. Or even
Is that correct?
It's a correct response.
Depending on the perspective of the recipient.
You get to differentiate whether it's feedback because each individual person can say it's feedback or input. based on their role in the room.
You weren't a part of that other project. So it's not feedback to you.
It's feedback to you.
It's feedback to me.
So we're both right.
Yes.
It's
It's
the
input
same
to you.
time.
It's new information to you.
It can be an
Situation
and
you're not-
situation, not just an or situation.
It-
Several ands.
The question you asked, the question that you asked before that, is akin to, no, it was Steve, his comment.
This one?
Yeah, feedback can only occur when two or more inputs exist. And this is the, if a tree falls in the forest question, does it make a noise if nobody?
This one is the one from last night. I don't agree, and that's okay. I'm okay to be wrong in this situation. Communication, does it require engagement of two people?
Yes.
Not yet, Catherine.
If,
I'm talking to myself.
I mean, I think the implication there is successful communication or engaged communication, where like you can communicate with a non-response. That is a communication.
But what if it's not intentional? What if you are speaking, you are nonverbal, you're doing something and there's not an exchange? Is that communication? If I'm speaking and no one else is in the room, is that communication?
Yes.
You're broadcasting.
Oh, is it? Because that's not what somebody said last night.
Are you communicating with yourself? Like you could be talking.
Okay, so Sarah and Nate did not agree that communication can be done without exchange of two people.
And I said last night, you're broadcasting, you're not communicating.
Yeah, my understanding of communication is that as you're giving out information, you have to confirm that the person actually understood what it is that you convey. Otherwise, you're just talking.
Yeah, comprehension is what we were talking about.
That's correct, yeah.
So when Jesse's recording all his videos, it's not communication.
It's broadcast.
For some people, it's communication. If I give him feedback or give him input, whichever way you want to put it, because for me, sometimes it can be both words. And if I acknowledge something actually resonated with me, I'm now giving you, we're now communicating with each other.
So I'm hearing communication requires two ways, not just
There's two
one.
parts.
If he's filming his videos
Uh-huh.
and they're just living in his computer space, he can be talking at the camera, making his videos. But until they are published to, say, YouTube or Depth Builder, then is he communicating or is he broadcasting?
Recipient.
Only if someone takes it on board.
So you're saying,
Yeah.
and you said,
Or response.
if you're talking in response.
I think communication is anything auditory, verbal, nonverbal. That is how I feel.
So let me ask you this. You said something the other time, you talked about people on posting things on social media. And they said, and you said, are you, I forgot what the words were, but are you basically posting to sort of hear yourself, or are you seeking engagement? For me, engagement is communication.
Okay, so when if you post
Mhm.
and get no likes and no comments and nothing that acknowledges that someone saw it, is that communication?
Yes, because I communicated my idea to the world. Whether anybody took the bravery, courage, whatever, to communicate back to me that they heard me is not my business. But I communicated my idea.
Engagement is someone actually responding back and you having then a further conversation with each other.
So my form of communication is I paint a piece of art. Yes.
Yes,
And it's hanging on a wall. That's communication.
yes.
Well, what wall is,
That's fine.
where is that wall?
That's the sound.
Is it open for viewing? Are you interested in eliciting people's thoughts, ideas, feedback? And this is exactly why communication is complicated sometimes.
All the time.
I'm arguing that it is not complicated. And we do complicate it because we soften the lines. Because communication is comprised of two things happening, a message being delivered and a message being received.
Yes.
So how does reflection and meditation play?
That is me, that actually ties into Adam's kind of weird
Is that communication?
With yourself?
Is it communication?
communicating to the being, right?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
and yes,
Nay,
yes.
how does meditation and reflection play into communication requiring receiving and engagement?
It's a conversation between spirit, the soul, the capital S self, and the body, or the memories or the interactions. It's those are the things that you're actually communicating to and communicating with. And the feedback occurs, overcomplicating things, at that infinitesimal small level where now all of a sudden you remember something and you get this one glimmer of having seen it a different way. Because you sat and thought about it and you took yourself out of the situation and relooked at the situation.
With science.
So your engagement is with,
Yourself,
okay.
with your history,
Yeah, and that's still
with your
communication.
experiences.
Damn, that's deep.
Because you're receiving an input back.
But from yourself.
But
So it
a
doesn't
piece of art hanging on the wall is not receiving an input back. So it's the one side.
It's expressing.
If I look at your heart,
And
haven't
you
I
cry.
communicated with it?
You did. And then if he cries,
You
he
know,
communicates it
because the art can't.
Can't speak to you.
Yes, they
The art can speak to you,
My historical.
but it can't speak back.
Let's go back to, how is this not complicated?
Again, so let's go back to the bumpers, right? The conversation, this idea was around collaboration.
Yep.
Right? All of a sudden, we're talking about
Art.
no art.
Interpretation.
So because it's big and it's messy, it's hairy, right? Even Adam would say, no, Jen, you can communicate with inanimate objects, and here we go, right? What I'm proposing is we make it hard because we don't get clear. And in Jesse land, when I'm collaborating or facilitating a collaboration session or brainstorming session or whatever, I want input. I want your thoughts, I want your ideas, I want feedback. Maybe when we wrap up, when the collaboration is done, I'm gonna get feedback. But while we're doing the collaboration and the brainstorming, I want input. I want your thoughts, I want your ideas. And it's very defined in my head. Once we finish that session, whatever that is, there's a filtering process and everybody does collaboration and brainstorming differently. Once that's complete, and we want to do a reflective, retrospective, plus delta, whatever the hell you want to call it, now I'm looking for feedback. And feedback is not a lovey-dovey thing. Feedback for me is I get to understand what your experience was, and I get to pick and choose what the hell I'm going to carry forward. And there's no negative consequence to dismissing your feedback, because there's no power dynamic. So it's just feedback. Kind of going back to one of the questions Jen asked, when people jump out and give me feedback that I didn't invite, it's gonna fall right where it started. They didn't ask you for it.
So,
It's a response, right?
so I got a question for you. You go to the car dealership
Yes.
and the car dealership says, we want your feedback. So is the feedback about me or about you?
So the feedback, okay.
Is
Well, when I'm doing a group feedback, I'm gonna ask very specific. like an in-person thing. What are your feedback on the content of what we cover? That's specific. It's for me, so that I can get better. What are your feedback on my delivery and the way I drove engagement? That's for me,
Okay.
right? What would you improve or recommend on the next round? That's a mutual exchange.
Yeah,
I'm gonna offer an analogy.
okay.
There's a pool in town that their slogan is the warmest pool in town.
Amazing.
And you go there to swim. Or pee.
Or Pete, I've heard, no,
I didn't say she wasn't swimming in pee. I said she wasn't gonna swim. So you go there to swim and you're in the pool and the general manager walks over and says, how's the warmth? So you have to have experienced something. You have exchanged electrons, muons, quarks, with the water around you, the temperature around you, and you're about to provide feedback. So it is about you, but it's about them too. And that's where the feedback and partnership, it's both of you.
How does the feedback benefit the person in the pool?
Correct.
There we go. I don't know if they're gonna change something.
yeah, they could get in the pool again.
What if you said, yeah, it's not that warm, and it's kind of bleachy.
But wouldn't it be a better experience if I go to the pool and the next time they'll say they had something that was separate. I know you like it a little bit warmer, and therefore we have this other pool. So now it's about me instead of about you. For me, that is what feedback is about. It's about how can you help my experience
Improvement.
improve my experience the next time, or even better, impact it during that time. So for example, in projects, we get feedback because we want to improve the process before the end of the project. So, because at the end, I'm basically doing I'm a mortician. There's nothing I can do at this point. The project is dead. And so it's like, I can't do anything about it at this point. For me, feedback is how can I improve your experience?
And
Which is the condition of satisfaction in my mind. because
Yes,
you
right.
establish it early, you have regular check-ins, you're finding out, you're getting feedback on, yes, we're aligned, or no, we're not, and we're continually doing that PDCA cycle to improve. That has impacted the people right there in that room. It's not like a retrospective.
Correct.
It is happening throughout the project.
Yes.
so what Sarah was saying, using the pool analogy, is maybe that feedback that was solicited is, yeah, like it's a little chilly, a little bleachy. And she took it a step further, and maybe the client hasn't said, yeah, I'd like a separate pool that is salt-based versus chlorine-based and maybe 5 degrees warmer. Instead, Sarah took that feedback and said, you know what, like I have the tools and resources to implement this additional thing that I think will benefit you and you will find pleasing based on the feedback that was given. And let me like give that to you.
Yeah.
You could also say, you're not my ideal client, and there's one of those pools down the street.
You know what? Like, I don't have what you need to serve what I feel you're asking for. However, let me refer you to someone that I think has more resources that align with your current goal.
So it goes back to Maria's kindness versus, I'm just gonna say it like it is.
That, in my head, that's delivery. That should be thought about in whatever venue we're having a discussion. So let's see, we're gonna get back. Bradley says, and I like this, it's like super, non-responsive recipients of an input can be either capacitor or resistor. They may not have an extravagant impact in the moment, but they tend to help calibrate the mechanism that defines the process.
I almost failed electrical engineering. I like concrete and steel.
Right? So for me, that's like, okay, it's not that complicated.
It might be a switch too.
It might be a switch,
A passive resistance
Right.
switch.
100%. And then Boots, thank you, Boots, because I'm trying to wrangle these people in over here.
Yeah.
Get focused. Collaboration is a space for. Steve Martin says, now see, Steve's going to stir the pot. Each of your individual comments are speaking to me right now. I
Thank
don't
you.
respond at all. Are you communicating? So this is why Selma Hayek hasn't called me, because we're already having meaningful communication.
Stalker.
Oh, then we got Denver. Okay, I'm gonna say it like this. Denver, what's up, brother? Good morning. Denver's here, coming in from super cold Illinois. I had a conversation with the man the other day, and we got to talk about some real stuff. I got to hear his perspective on things. He got to hear my perspective on things, and probably I talked way more than I should. That was a communication. There was this loop, right? Right now, I'm projecting. So again, for me to have these clear definitions of what it is, helps me become clearer in achieving the goal that I'm attempting to achieve. And so I'm talking smack. That's what I'm doing. The communication he said good morning. So if I'm super loose and wishy-washy, we had communication because he responded back. I just talked for 3 minutes and he said good morning.
It is nice to be.
And right. And he said good morning, whatever was that, 20 minutes ago. So no, like that's not communication. We're broadcasting back.
Jesse has left.
There's a lag in Jesse. Yes.
Can communication only be good?
No.
Oh, it can be bad?
Yeah.
So it would be bad communication for me to respond to you with a nice hat?
No. So
Who gets to define that? Who gets to define that? 'Cause we know when we do these live streams, we have lurkers, right? We know that. And so there are people out there that are listening and not contributing and not acknowledging that they hear us. But we know they're out there and they're receiving, and it could be something. But if we don't hear from them, are we still communicating?
Yes.
They're not communicating.
Is that what I ask?
Exactly.
If we don't hear from them, if they don't acknowledge that they are receiving what we are putting out there, does that mean we're not communicating?
If the we is those two, and you're talking about that person that's not answering what we're broadcasting, then you are not communicating with them.
Even though they're receiving, they're just not acknowledging.
Correct.
Yeah.
We weren't communicating with Steve Martin until he responded saying he was receiving.
Y'all wrong.
Until he came back and said,
No,
so we weren't communicating until you responded, and now we are.
see, I can communicate my spirit to other people and they can hear me or not, but I still communicate them.
From a steady boil.
I'm gonna say again, we are doing one part of what communication is comprised. And we like to think that we're doing all the parts.
But I think communication is an umbrella with all these parts in it. That's where my brain is.
Say again?
Communication is an umbrella with all these parts in it.
Yes,
And so any one part is still under that umbrella in my mind.
Big C and little c.
I'll agree that it's under the umbrella, and it's also not the umbrella.
Correct.
Oh.
Which means any one of those.
Now you guys are
still be
communicating.
labeled as-
Yes.
So Sharon says, if I receive your message, then you are communicating to me, but I'm not communicating to you.
Ooh.
Jennifer wants to know.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you.
We got Team Jen. So intimidation apparently is.
I'm sitting kidding me? I haven't even stood up yet.
If you play the flinch game with someone and they flinch, you just communicate with
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, so Adam, you're gonna have to like help explain, like communicate about what they do.
Yeah. What's the question?
them.
Who is they?
Oh, here we go, we got some definitions coming in. Bradley says, according to Latin, communication is either to impart, participate, or transmit.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and Latin is a dead language. Only the Romance language.
I like Leslie's,
Where's Leslie?
right above, silence, the one below it.
Thank you, Wesley. Another one.
Hey,
Silence is a form of communication, yes.
Yeah.
But I am giving you communication back if you know that if I'm communicating, I'm being silent with you.
Intentionally.
If I choose not to respond, is that communicating?
No. But if you know, like, if I leave the room, that's communication because you know that I'm not happy with you.
Okay, right now.
So,
If I choose not to respond, is that communication? Yes, no.
so you said choose. If you choose, that means that you heard a thing and you're deciding on what your response to that thing is.
Yeah. If you haven't responded,
Communication occurred.
But if you just texted me something and I haven't acknowledged that I've received it, then I'm not communicating anything back.
Yeah,
Like, if you're silent to me, I just think you have gaps. I don't know that there's a message that I'm supposed to be receiving. Jess, that's not okay.
You know, Jess, I get what you're putting.
Right? Like, that doesn't inform me of anything, except that you're occupied.
yeah.
It's not communication
Ooh.
until it comes through. It's not communication.
Now, I also have to like give context, that you'll already know this. I am ultra dense.
Which is
When-
part of
when
why
you
he
want-
prefers really raw and direct communication.
Yes.
I disagree on the ultra dense. You got some dense parts, but there's a lot of gaps.
So does the communication have to be back, so, and I'm
But
going
Rodney's
to
already
go down
said,
y'all's.
You didn't communicate.
Oh.
You're saying, well, I was silent, so you should have known.
So Sarah says, like, there's a conversation, you ask a question, Sarah gets up and walks out, she's not communicating to you, but she's done something, that's communication.
You've received a message.
You've received a message.
But what if I just got a phone call, it's nothing to do with what Sarah said?
Exactly.
Yeah, so here's what, so I want to pause because there are some people, it's not just, well, I used my silence as a, communication tool. No. Some people are medically mute for some things. If you ask them something too close to the chest, they're not going to be able to physically respond to you. There's a difference.
If it is that, they can respond in some way because their body language.
Sure.
Silence.
That is, yeah, they are indeed responding,
So,
but not always because they're angry or.
Jen, I think you just said it. If they filed an accommodation, haven't they pre-communicated their response to whatever you say about that thing?
If they let me know that they have trouble with that, then yes, then you would know, okay, they didn't just hate what I said, but they're having a hard time articulating back to me something.
So I just want to give everybody a heads up. We will be clearly defining what collaboration is. But
Maybe not on this show.
there's gonna be a part 2 after tonight.
I watched the part 2,
I don't like the part 2. So let's go back to the comments. Sharon says, silence with an evil glare or a sly smirk. Body language communicates. But it's so easily misunderstood. If I have a bellyache, I might look mad, but I'm just uncomfortable.
Agreed.
Right? Leslie, again, man, she's bringing it in today. She says, if I choose to be silent, that is communication. It might not be effective communication, it is still communication, PS, in my,
Which I agree with.
yeah,
My opinion too, Leslie.
I disagree,
So,
but I'm not against it.
but how do you disagree with that in a technological world when you can say, Alexa, turn on the TV? And the TV comes
Turn
on,
on the response.
it's the response.
So it's not about words, was the message received?
Right.
Meaning, it's not about words from Alexa.
Mhm.
Like, Alexa, don't, she better not be talking back to me.
Mhm.
Put her in her place. I'm joking. It's, I made a request,
Mhm.
I conveyed a message, and the thing turned on the TV. So the message was received, understood, and acted.
That's the first time in 50 minutes, 51 minutes, we've said request.
I was going to say request.
That's, it is that you say something, and it's a request, no matter what you're saying.
I was
You
saying
were
that.
you were pleased with her compliance to your directive.
I see so we had this conversation at the restaurant the other day. Heather asked, how can I thank you about whatever? And Jen, by the way, the communication was between Heather and I, but Jennifer answered.
And it was correct, and validated by Jesse.
Yes.
Let's make sure we don't add that.
And so Jennifer jumped in. It's like, oh, I know how. This is what I appreciate, which was 100%. It's a pretty good observation. I must be communicating really well silently. And so for like, I can say all the things that I want in any form or fashion, any tone. But if there's no indication that the message was received and understood, I fail to do my part in the communication.
Just like, I'm gonna shoot light into space. Did I communicate with the aliens or whatever is out there? I didn't get anything back, so no. Like, I just shot light out into space.
But other times when we're in rooms and we are putting very heavy brain shifting topics out there. And when we leave there, we're like, crap, that didn't resonate with anybody. And then 3 weeks later, 9 months later, someone comes in and goes, now I'm ready to do this because I've been dealing with this for 9 months and I'm ready because I feel what you were saying. Like, so was it received? We didn't get any validation for 9 months that it was received, but it was received in the moment that we delivered it. They just were dealing with it for 9 months. Okay. Like, that was still not confirmation. We didn't get communication back and forth, but it was communicated.
It was told. If somebody comes in, the president comes in and talks about, here's this update, and he's the only one talking, that's not communication. That's telling. That's sending a message out. But that's not, communication is two-way.
So everybody gets up out of their chairs after he's done speaking, or she, and they go do some of the things that he talked about, she talked about. I would say that was communication. That they took what came out of his word hole in his face and decided to do a thing back in spaces.
Yeah, okay, back to the agenda. So Omniverse, if you're watching the replay and you're just coming in, you say, what the hell? What happened over there?
We don't know either.
Yeah. I think it's an important conversation because we're communicating.
I'm taking up what you're receiving.
So, want to know y'all's thoughts out there in the Omniverse. Collaboration is a space for what? Fill in the blank. What is the purpose of collaboration? What is the product, the deliverable, the purpose? What is collaboration a space for? And so with that, Adam Boots, just for you, Big Daddy, let's at least try to touch on the title of the damn live stream here.
Change.
Huh?
Change.
Collaboration is for change,
A space for change,
okay?
Contribution.
alignment,
Space for contribution.
understanding.
Continuation of the human species.
Ooh, that's
We're social beings, and so coming together to solve problems is what we do genetically.
Hmm.
And we're doing this genetically because we want to make money. And we want to make money because we want to feed ourselves. We want to put food in our food bowl, sometimes. So that I'm breaking it down to that level, but it's a drive within the majority of humans to be around and connect with other humans and have a sense of working together on things.
Do you think collaboration can be different for different people? Because for me, collaboration is about connecting, growing, improving myself and others. But that may not be how other people see collaboration.
The literature points to the differences between different cultures, whether they're culturally loose or tight. Collaboration in Japan is different than collaboration in Seattle. In Japan, the phrase is the nail that sticks out will be pounded down. So all the other nails are collaborating, and they're going to beat the snot out of that one nail until it begins to collaborate.
That's conforming.
But that's their form of
Collaboration.
I think it does depend on what's going on. Construction is going to be a different form of collaboration than a group of therapists who run their independent mindfulness business. That conversation with them is going to be a
Different
total coaching session.
So Leslie says effective communication is a collaborative discussion, even if it's a silent one. Steve Martin says purpose of collaboration, an opportunity to journey together toward hashtag better.
I love that. Steve.
So I use the chief marketeer.
Chief marketeer, Steve Martin. So Amy, collaboration is a space for purpose.
Exploration
Ooh, okay.
and expansion.
I like that too.
Miss Maria?
How disrespectful.
I already did it.
Oh, man.
Thank you, though.
Would you mind repeating your answer?
Okay, we'll go to the comments.
Connection. Yeah. Mine was connection, growing, and improving.
Yeah.
Well, here's one to throw you off track. What's that all about, Maria? Giving yourself, she's
I think you
artificial.
should show.
Metaphorically.
He's deflecting.
Is it your-
I don't think Adam has answered.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what, sorry, Maria, we're taking the spotlight off.
I'm so upset.
Is it your birthday?
No, it's December 3rd.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Same as my dad's.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And when you bought this house.
Yes, exactly.
Man, but he's being very mean to you right now, Maria.
Well, I mean, at least it's not me right now.
I'm
Just gonna say.
Collaborate, yeah, so, come on, we gotta answer this question for Adam.
But I'm
Yeah, what's your answer, Adam? Like, help us out. Can we phone a friend?
I think it's interesting in how, like, everyone in this room, we have, like, a love for each other and respect and compassion and care and enjoyment with each other. The way that we're able to have this conversation and have opposing perspectives and be able to say, I don't agree with that, or I have a counterpoint to it, has been a very interesting exercise for me, because the way, like, Nate and I could end up having a conversation where we're on very different stances and have valid resources and information and experiences, and we can walk away from that conversation and I will still have the love and respect for him that I have, versus, and that's like because of the relationship that's there, versus when you have someone comes into a collaborative activity or a meeting, and they say something and you don't necessarily like them as a person, or you don't have a relationship with them, you don't know them, you don't have any information on their experiences, perspectives, how they operate, and the way that you receive their information that they're presenting can be very different than with someone that you've had the relationship develop and gotten to know.
Word.
It's your
Okay,
question.
okay, I'm ready. Thank you. I appreciate you. I think I'm with my brother Steve. And the collaboration is a space for working together to be better.
I like it. Thank you, Maria. Denver says collaboration is a space for building trust.
Nice.
Word.
Like that.
So I'm going to piggyback on Amy's comment. Thank you, by the way, for remembering to set me up. We pre-planned this. This conversation, was it a feedback session or an input session?
Both.
It was an open dialogue.
Yeah. So was it a collaborative conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was anybody's idea rejected?
Mine.
A couple of times.
That was
Without kindness.
It was an opposing idea. Right?
What I can taste that rejecting means they shut down.
Was it?
I think that's gonna be the next call, is what is rejection?
Ooh.
Because rejection is communication.
Yeah. So it felt like rejection.
Yes, when I'm talking and Jesse's going, no. It felt like rejection. But yes, you're correct.
Like
It was opposing.
different perspective.
Did it change your mind?
Absolutely not.
Tom Leonard was a sales guru. He said all problems exist in the absence of a good conversation. And I put on there that the people coming into that conversation need to be ready, maybe even willing, to have their mind changed by the conversation. They don't have it, not able, just ready or willing. Because if they don't show up ready to have that conversation be real, then they're just listening.
It's a barrier.
It's a debate.
I was gonna say the same thing, because a lot of times, one of the things that I've learned is that I used to debate. Now I have open dialogue. And the difference between that and for collaboration is because you're open to having your mind potentially switch to another side. Debate is defending your position.
Which sort of ability were you talking about?
I mean, some people aren't able to change their minds.
True.
They're not in a place where they're entering that conversation willing to acknowledge or embrace that there's additional pathways or thought processes.
Only their way is right.
Yeah,
Well, and trying a lot of trauma.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all are all wrong.
And the feedback that you gave her is that she said, you guys came to an agreement. So she said there's an umbrella of communication. She's seeing this side of the communication, which you're like, yes, it is there. You're also seeing that it's also this as well. So you're both agreeing that there's a portion that you agree with. It's the other half that you're not agreeing with.
Welcome to my world. This is not and I can exist.
Right. Here's the question for Jen. If you're holding a stick and you're wearing a poncho, are you an umbrella?
Only if you're quiet. So we gotta go into closing thoughts. So before we go into closing thoughts, I wanna, Miss Sharon, and thank you, Sharon. I got to interview Sharon. Y'all haven't connected with Sharon. She's got like massive energy. Super awesome. She said she wished she could join us on more of these. Loving it every time I can be here. And I'm just gonna make a leap, Sharon, and say that you're saying that you wish you could join us here at the reciprocal propulsion retreat.
We will have another one.
And we will have another one. That's why we're all here. We're gonna get like super personal and raw and vulnerable here throughout the rest of the day. So be gentle with us if you see us out there in the wild. And with that, closing thoughts. What do we got?
Everyone's gonna have, just like,
Yes, yes. Don't stink of your thoughts.
Whenever you can, try to learn other people's language and try to communicate in their language.
Who's up?
When we were talking about the communication and is it communication if it's not received, we don't have one agreed upon definition of what communication is. And until we have that, we're gonna have different perspectives. I think that's why there's a definition for words, so that there's an agreement of this is how it's interpreted. And we're all interpreting communication differently. And is this the reason why everyone is challenged with communication, and every company, the number one issue that everybody feeds back is communication? Where do you start? What is the definition?
My silence is communicating.
Not your nonverbal is clear.
I'll be there,
just
sure.
my smile communication.
And you agree with the stuff out there that says 93% of communication is nonverbal.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm all for that. 9% in the written word, 35% in the tone of voice, and then the remainder, 54%, whatever it is in body language. Cool.
Okay, closing thought. Amy, Sarah, Maria.
If y'all are going to say something, I got a question.
I was going to say something. I was trying to form my thoughts, and there was a slight processing delay.
Thank you for your
Just every time that we gather, whether it's in person or virtually, I remember a little over 2 years ago when I started attending things, and I was like, man, like I get so much clarity, and like it feeds me to come to these. And now that I know more of the people and we've gone on this journey together, sometimes I get some clarity on certain things, but more often than not, I end up needing to dig even deeper into understanding how I view interactions, how I interact with other people, what are my perspectives, what has helped shape my perspectives, which of those perspectives do I want to shift and modify, and reaching out to different people in our group who have different perspectives and resources and approaches. So it's helped me, even though to some degree it has caused more internal work for me, it has also helped me continue to develop and become a better person and improve my communication skills because of the willingness to explore different ideas.
Yeah. So I think
I yield the floor.
makes sense. I think what's got me going is what Nate was saying earlier. And so for me, it reminded me, and I've been thinking about it already enough to have already talked to Jen about it. But the allegory in the cave, of the cave, whatever, okay? The allegory of the cave. So if you haven't, didn't have the pleasure of reading that, for AP English, then I would encourage you to do a nice little summary.
Want to
Right.
play those, right?
I think it was. And so but for me as an adult now, having like sat with that story for a very long time or a longer time, there will be people in all parts of the cave, right? Some of them are chained to the wall still in full darkness. Some of them have been courageous enough to break the chains, right? But they're still in the cave. And then some people are started to wander up out of the cave. Some people have gone all the way outside, right? And they said, this is great. Some people said, this is horrible, right? And so I guess just being mindful of who you're communicating with and what part of the cave they're in, and still being kind and compassionate for that. So I don't have to communicate with you like somebody who's already in the outside of the cave. I can speak to you like you're chained to the wall if you are chained to the wall.
Awesome.
And still do it in love.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
All right, Jennifer Lacey.
Sarah,
Oh, Sarah, my bad.
no worries. I was really going off of what Amy said. And so for me, it's really about that open dialogue and understanding that your perception of the world is not necessarily the perception of someone else. So for me, that's why communication becomes important, to understand the perception of both sides so you come to a common agreement and understanding. It's not saying you're right or wrong, it's simply that I acknowledge your perception of things or understand what it is that you're trying to communicate.
So mine is the challenge. That's my, I think my summary or my closing thoughts are, we've talked about like input and collaboration and feedback. And so in the next couple of weeks, when you are in a conversation with another person, and you are ready to respond, ask yourself, did they request a response? Because if they requested, we talked about that today, it really made me think, like, when I go to provide my knowledge and input or whatever it is to another person, did they request a response? Because I think some of that is they're asking for something specific, but sometimes they're not, and we still give them feedback. And so, like, just kind of stop for a moment and go, what are they asking? Or are they asking for anything? And if they're not, can you just listen and not respond? That's my closing.
Boom. Awesome.
What about you, Jess?
Well, first I want to recognize Daryl, because Daryl did offer his perspective or about his experience. The audio wasn't great for him. So I'm acknowledging that I got the message. And also, like, there was nothing we were going to do about it. Right? So, but Daryl, thank you for pointing that out. And folks out there, I appreciate y'all hanging in, even if the audio was jacked up.
And y'all killed it. Like, y'all's responses and y'all's contributions today leveled up our conversation. So thank you.
100%. So collaboration for me, or rather not for me, I keeping my foot on this mantle of collaboration is a space for input. The reason I wanted to have this conversation and the next series of conversations getting into the nitpicking of what communication is and how diluted we make it is because I have found tremendous value in getting ultra clear about what it is and what it isn't, what it looks like, etc. And my suggestion is that you do the same, because it has helped me eliminate a lot of static, a lot of uncommunicated expectations, a lot of unsecured commitments. And by removing those things, my disappointment and frustration has been minimized. That is the purpose of the conversations. I'm going to say everybody's right. I'm just right. And that's it.
You say everyone's perspective and input here was valid.
And
While
And
I'm just right.
You know what a yes vote is, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
Okay, just to remind everyone that we are in a cabin in the mountains.
Jesse made it come out.
And
Don't say it out loud.
extended time to still spend together. So kindness could be very beneficial.
Look, we're gonna close with Bradley calling me out. Y'all be cool. We're gonna have